I were to tell you what I know about this YouTube channel would be banned. And I would say 90+% of everything out there on this subject has been curated and embedded within pop culture by the CIA and others who are very, very good at what's called a PSYOP, part of a long-term PSYOP. Abductions are human-made events, part of a PSYOP. Mutilations of cattle, all human. This drone imbroglio, all human. There are a number of events that really do look like an ET craft, but what people forget is that 70 years of reverse engineering extraterrestrial vehicles and $8 to $10 trillion in black budget funding over the years studying it, they've come out with devices and machines that are almost indistinguishable from an actual extraterrestrial one. So those can also be, you look at these drones, you'll also see some of these weird, like almost living orbs and spheres that appear.
Yes.
Those are ours. Now, there's extraterrestrial phenomenon that may look that way too, but what they're doing is a copycat. And therefore they can deceive the public. Even very well-informed people on the subject can be deceived. Because the other thing that people wildly underestimate is the degree to which we have unpacked and figured out extremely advanced technologies and then put them into weapon systems or deceptive operations.
Several viewers have reached out to KRDO 13 Investigates following the recent headlines of drone sightings along the East Coast to share their own video clips of similar sightings. We reached out to several agencies in Colorado to see if those mysterious drones are now moving west.
Unexplained drones leave millions on edge across the country. One former defense official recently issued this warning about the government's secrecy around UFOs.
Excessive secrecy has led to grave misdeeds against loyal civil servants, military personnel, and the public, all to hide the fact that we are not alone in the cosmos. If we approach the UAP topic in the same way as we, as Americans, have met other challenges, we can restore our faith in our government institutions. I believe that we as Americans can handle the truth, and I also believe the world deserves the truth.
Nearly every agency I reached out to said they haven't seen an increase in drone sightings, or they couldn't comment immediately. But still, KRDO 13 Investigates has had several viewers share with us video of what they claim to be mysterious drones flying in the night sky.
Look, one of them drones here in Colorado.
This video was sent in from a Pueblo man just last week who claims this is a drone, and this was a UAP from earlier this fall.
I was kind of excited, to be honest. I wasn't like afraid of it by any means. I was like, ooh, this is exciting. Like, they're not just in New Jersey. They seem to be, in other states.
Here's another sent in by a couple driving back to Pueblo. They say this flying object, sporting festive Christmas-colored lights, was found near Fountain on I-25 in the same spot both on Friday and Sunday night.
There's that little bit down inside of me that's real excited and hopes it's aliens.
But this isn't part of a bigger trend. The El Paso County Sheriff's Office says they've seen 0 credible reports in the last few months. Colorado Springs Police also say they have no reports, and Pueblo Police Department is still looking through their records. Now, even all the way down in Alamosa, which historically is a hotbed for aerial activity, police say they haven't had any sightings or reports recently. But what happens if you do look up into the night sky and see a drone? Well, if you suspect it's being used for criminal activity or threatening your safety, then you're encouraged to call local law enforcement. Now, any sightings of drones or other aircraft that may not be following federal guidelines should be reported to the FAA. Now, the Colorado Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Management tells us there are several free apps that you can use to identify objects flying in the sky above you. Reporting live in Colorado Springs, Michael Lagerweld, KRDO 13.
Former Special Operations Intel Analyst and drone expert Brett Velkovitz joins us now. Brett, thank you for your service. Thanks for joining us. we listen to that, and he's talking about extraterrestrial, but we really don't have to go outside of our stratosphere to see our government being very secretive and not very trustworthy. I'm looking at the timeline here on these drones, and you have Mayorkas at DHS briefing and saying no big deal. You have Admiral Kirby saying it. These are people who lied to our faces about the border and about the Chinese spy balloon. If that's the credibility, and you're saying there's nothing to worry about here, that makes me think there's something to worry about here.
Yeah, that's the issue, is they've destroyed the credibility with the American people. And look, I want to believe there's some other form of life out there just like the rest of us. And I do have a real curiosity about what's up on our stars, but I'm also pragmatic about it and realistic. And to say there's some alleged secret government group that for decades has been covering up evidence of aliens and hiding UFOs in their possession seems a little far-fetched to me. Frankly, I don't think the current government is smart enough to do that. But, and then these sources are always some whistleblowers allegedly too afraid to come forward. What would be the incentive of that? And also, why does no one ever seem to be able to show me clear photos of these UFOs? And that was one of the issues with these recent drone sightings is the more people across the country who sent me photos of these drones, the more I started to understand many things in the sky are being misidentified. People are finally starting to look up. They're wondering what's up there now. And they're seeing a lot of things that they don't recognize. And it's not their fault. The problem is our government hasn't done a good job protecting us from modern day threats by explaining what is regularly above us and what threats we're going to face at home sooner than later. And Joey, the rapid innovation right now of lethal drone technology over the years due to ongoing wars overseas has forever changed the ways wars are going to be fought. In Ukraine, for instance, an estimated 70 to 80% of the daily attacks that take place on the front lines are conducted with drones. You've got even North Korean soldiers who have entered the fight recently being taken out left and right by these kamikaze handheld drones. And frankly, we're not ready for this. Our military is not prepared for that style of fight. We've put too much money in the wrong thing. And there's just a lot of arrogance on our current government administration that thinks they've got it all figured out. But we're never going to fight another war without drones. And our adversaries, they surely get it. I mean, there was a Chinese defense contractor who just signed an agreement for over 1 million handheld kamikaze drones to be produced for the Chinese government before 2026. That scale of production doesn't exist in the U.S. They get it, but our government's not prioritizing it.
Yeah, I've done a lot of coverage here, different shows on Fox about drones because I have friends in that industry coming from the EOD world, and it is the absolute arms race of the future. You talk about us spending money. We spend all this money on the F-35, and you can do that with a Walmart drone now. You can implement something that easy. But when we take a step back and look at what's happening, we're kind of honed in on New Jersey, but the lead up to this, I think, created a lot of the hysteria. You had, I think the first thing reported on were drones going near military bases overseas. Then you have a Chinese citizen being caught trying to get back to China after flying a drone near a military base. Then you start to have this happening in the Northeast. And I guess my question to you is, my kind of take on this is a lot of it is coming from people actually finally looking up and paying attention. But is there, within all of this, a layer of there is something specific going on that we need answers on?
We definitely need answers. And look, the recent drone sightings just frankly showed how vulnerable we are as a nation.
And it's going to pull the curtain back, specifically on the lost 100 years of these technologies. And it's going to go all the way back, more than 100 years, to the Stubblefield Earth battery. And Nikola Tesla standing there with his old farmer, where he's running his whole farm on this device where he has stakes in the ground that are tapping into this electromagnetic and mostly magnetic flux field and running generators running his farm. This is 1902.
This is 1902?
1902. And Nikola Tesla is standing there. I got the picture. This document is going to blow. It goes from that all the way to the Lockheed Skunk Works devices that started being built in the 50s. We have witnesses and transcripts of the Norton Air Force Base show, California. Norton's closed now. But they had an air show in 1988 where there were 3 of these man-made UFOs, ARVs, alien reproduction vehicles, hovering in this hangar. And those, we have those fully illustrated. We have enough detail. We actually have the schematics of the interior.
You have the schematics of the interior?
And the exterior, how they look. And these were built, interestingly, the witness who was there was an aerospace designer. Saw that the components in it, but this is 1988, were from the late Mercury era. So the Mercury capsule, which was late 50s, early 60s. And they had markings and charts on them where they'd been out in space around our solar system. They were specifically told these had gone through the solar system. Now those were from the late 50s, early 60s. No jet fuel, no rockets. So this is going to be shocking. It's going to be shocking. Well, we're going to actually have a lot of the devices going through the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s that weren't the flying devices. But I'll give you an example. There was an inventor named Floyd Sweet, and he had a solid state device, looked like a little bigger than a cigarette pack, that you could attach to an electric motor, say for a car. It wasn't plugged in. Once it got going, it was a 0 point quantum vacuum flux, and it would run a 300 horsepower motor. So imagine having a 300 horsepower motor in your Tesla or your truck, and this little there are no batteries. You don't have 900 pounds of lithium-ion batteries, and the lithium-ion batteries really are destroying the environment. And you never have to plug it in. About the time he was going to get, he was meeting with some people at GM who thought they were interested, but they were actually just trying to find out what he had. After that meeting, he died suddenly, suspiciously.
How?
People claiming, well, he dropped dead of a heart attack. And that was plausible because he was an elderly guy. Mm-hmm. But before that, he had had an assassination attempt. He was going up some steps, and a sniper was trying to shoot it, but he didn't know it, but he tripped just as the bullet went right past his head. And we have the testimony of a lieutenant colonel who was involved in this case, who is a physicist also. This is going to be shocking to people.
Oh, yeah.
It's utterly shocking.
You know, these mysterious deaths, some people are like, oh, you know, that, no way. Well, it does. We talked about the Epstein stuff. Let's talk, you know, the guy that invented the hydrocar, gone.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, there have been so many. I've worked with people.
And then there was...
who've done that.
If you could refresh my memory, but wasn't there somebody else that disappeared and they just happened to be involved?
Yeah, there have been a number of folks where things get set up like that around them. There was a guy doing up this recent in New York where there was a man who had recreated this water fuel cell where your car could run off water. Yeah, and just bizarre stuff. So one of the problems with all these inventors,
I mean, it's not a consequence. It's not a coincidence.
No, these are hits.
Yeah.
But the problem is that if you're a brilliant electromagnetic engineer, but you don't know the bear you're about to poke with that technology and what they'll do to keep it suppressed, you're destined to fail. So one of the reasons we're doing this documentary is to provide the context so that people who do have these devices come to us, and we have a strategy that we briefly outline in this documentary of how to fix this problem. Well, how do you fix it? The big mistake people make, they try to patent it. And we have actually a national security order denial on a patent of one of these devices from an inventor I know. So we're going to prove this is not a conspiracy theory. Here it is from the patent office. So they ain't going to allow it. It gets confiscated. We have a patent examiner who's a PhD physicist testifying that they confiscate these things. That's in the movie. And then we say, okay, how are you going to get it out then? You have, if you try to keep how it operates secret, then you're very vulnerable. So one of the things I did for the disclosure project for my own security is to decentralize everything I have. It's called detargeting. So why have a big bullseye on your ass when if you were to disperse all your information and intelligence, which I have done, it would still be out there. Moreover, you create a dead man trigger. So since the 90s, I've had a dead man trigger of stuff I'm holding back. If something happens to me, that hits the internet, and every celebrity that supports what we're doing that can reach 1 billion people, they get it, they put it out on Instagram, and boom. You know, and this is stuff they do not want out. Mm-hmm. It's names, it's stuff that I have not released, and where and who. But people say, why don't you release it? I said, well, you know, this is one of my insurance policies. Well, what these inventors don't get is that they don't do that. They have no SecOps, so they have no security protocols. They just think I have a better mousetrap, the world's gonna beat a path to my door. When in reality, Murder Incorporated beats a path to their door, okay? Or it just gets confiscated. Most of the time, it's not even that. They're so crazy. They think, we're gonna keep this secret. Nobody will know how it works. And I'm going to just sort of be able to get it out there without no one proving it. And I said, no. If you're making an outrageous claim that you're pulling energy out of the space around us, it's got to be released for scientific review. It's got to be reproduced by multiple labs and people who are skilled in the art. You got to open source it. Open source means it's just out there. Mm-hmm. At the first level. Now, maybe at the second level, you could patent because then the whole world knows. So what we're proposing is that at a level 1 phase of these new technologies coming out, we're going to leave the things that fly alone, because those could be missile delivery systems. But the things that would run your house or car, whatever, a boat, a truck, those need to come out like 100 years ago. So the way to do it, and this we outline, is that we would disclose it publicly on blockchain protected systems, massively, multiple celebrities. And the first 20 of these devices we would reproduce would be running Demi Lovato's home, or Leo DiCaprio's house, or Dave Grohl, the Foo Fighters, or whoever, all these people interested in the subject. Why? Because the media could suppress this, but you can't suppress dozens of celebrities with 1 billion followers. Yeah. Got it? I mean, you know, sort of like it's a very well thought through strategy. It's unconventional. Because my view is you put a boulder in front of where we're trying to flow, but the water, if you're water, you just flow around it.
No, I mean, it makes perfect sense. Even if they do try to suppress it, once, you know, because they could take the post, they could take the video. It's already been out there. So many people have already seen it. They would have to delete the accounts. before it gets out?
Well, they'd have to tear down the whole internet. If you have, so our plan would be to have a multi-nation, multi-site, blockchain protected release of the schematics, how it works, everything about it, so anyone could reproduce it if you know how to do that. I mean, I couldn't even make a toaster oven.
How many people do you think are out there that know how to produce this kind of technology?
Oh, hundreds.
Hundreds.
Hundreds, maybe more. Over the years, there have been thousands of these devices that have come and gone. Most of them, people just take it to their grave because they don't understand the strategy of what they need to do. So they'll make a deal with someone financially, and that someone is fronting for another interest that suppresses it, buys it out. It's called black shelving. Happens all the time in the corporate world. You want something that's a competition, you create a corporate entity, you fund it, get controlling interest in it, and then you just put it on black shelf. I know multiple devices that would literally save humanity and the planet that that's happened to.